Welcome, folks, to Roots Revival Interfaith. I'm your pastor, Ivy Rivera, psychic medium. Today's sermon is titled, Don't Be Abused, How to Better Protect Yourself. Abuse is a subtle, disguised situation that progresses in time. And most people find that they don't fully realize how abused they were until they have exited the toxic relationship or situation. It's important to always keep in mind that abusers are cleverly trained in getting away with the abuse, and they mask their behaviors by encouraging you to trust them, making you feel comfortable or appreciated, loved. And then once you're in a position of submission, you've let your guard down, you're under their control, the abuse is going to worsen. So it's really more like entrapment. It's important to understand different ways that you could be abused, different tactics that different abusers use. For example, narcissists use in the beginning of the relationship something called love bombing. They will dote on you. They will just sort of worship the ground that you walk on. They'll make sure they can do everything and anything for you so that you become reliant on them. They will try to convince you that you're soulmates, and they've studied you. So they know all of your interests. They know what you don't like, and they act as though they could be the perfect partner for you and that they like and dislike those same things. Okay, so love bombing is the hook approach to bringing you in and getting your guard down. Then with work, toxic workplace or boss, company that's taking advantage of you or abusing you. They may have lured you in at the interview or early on in the job with things like promotions, a lot of promises for advancement. And then you see other people getting those promotions, or you never have any room for growth. There's no consideration of how much time you put in. They may only demand more and more and more of you. So you can be abused in many different ways. And it's important to pay attention to the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual side effects of abuse. Because if it isn't logically obvious to you, it could be emotionally, physically, spiritual, energetically. So some things we want to watch for. Spiritually, you may feel detached from your higher mind. You may feel as though you're not rooted and grounded. You may feel out of alignment with the universe. You may feel that spirit is giving you a lot of warnings, or that your gut instinct is trying to tell you something, but you're afraid to listen, or you're not getting the message clearly. Okay, physically and mentally, you may have anxiety attacks or a terrible foreboding. You may have a lot of anger issues, depression, irritability, stomach aches, head problems, sleeplessness, nightmares, and many other things. These are all warning signs that you need to take a look at your relationships and see if there's abuse. You may feel trapped by the time you realize how bad the abuse is and how much trouble you could be in the future. You may also feel embarrassed to admit that you're caught up in an abusive situation. You can't figure your way out of it, but you need to take action because it will only worsen. Some of the things that you should do if you're in a toxic love partnership, you're embedded financially, residentially with someone, you should call for help. You should get over the embarrassment or the shame. Reach out if you do have supportive people, even if they haven't been there for you in a while. Because one of the things the abuser does is pulls you away from your loved ones, your support system, so that you are 100% reliant on them. But reach out to those people. If you have family, if you have friends, see if they would be able to help you either with residency or finances or your escape route in any way. Talk to a shelter. Do your research. There are a lot of shelters out there that can put you and even your children up if need be. Look into getting a police escort when you decide it's time to go. But it's important that the action you take is kept private. Don't lash out at the abuser and let them know when you plan to leave. You should have a getaway bag, getaway keys. Use your gut instinct. Ask your spirit guides, especially your protector guide and your ancestors, to be there with you at that time and to help guide you through that part of the process, because it's all about divine timing. So you need to prepare ahead, keep it silent from the abuser, and as much as you possibly can, protect your technology, your passwords, your finances, but you often can't do that until the very last second, or they'll know if passwords were changed. So I want to talk about a few different things that we can all do to make sure we're not getting ourselves caught up in abusive situations in the future. We're going to look at 6 different things. Number 1, never ignore your gut instinct or when spirit is giving you warnings about somebody. The minute you meet somebody, whether it's at a job interview, it's someone on a date, it's a new potential roommate or someone who maybe wants to be friends, you need to detach from that person's energy. Stand back and observe what their energy is telling you. Do you feel like they're hiding something? Do you feel a heaviness in your stomach, a stabbing in your gut? Do you have burning at the back of your neck up into your head? These are all warnings that there's toxic energy either attached to the individual or the individual themselves is just giving off toxic dark energy. Analyze what it could be about and plan your boundaries ahead of time if you are going to need to continue to deal with them. Pay attention to the dreams, the prophecy, the visions that you're having, especially in regards to your ancestors, your guides, spirit, coming to you, giving you warnings. And pay attention to your right ear ringing. When the right ear rings, the grandmothers used to say, left for love, right for spite, and that's fairly accurate. The right ear is often a warning about something that could do damage to you or someone in your space who may be starting some kind of trouble. Ask your psychic ability why the ear is ringing. Okay, number 2, never let your guard down, even with yourself. It's important to remember that mindfulness, cleansing, is a lifelong skill. It's spiritual hygiene, and it's just good maintenance, but most people aren't doing it. You may even stop doing it periodically, and hopefully you catch yourself early enough and you correct it. You get back on track, but there are people who are not planning to do that work. They do have dark, toxic energy, and without doing this work, that dark, toxic energy will at some point take over them. So you have to be mindful about their current energy and where it may be going. You don't know, too, whether or not an individual at any time may go dark. People can do well for long periods of time, even years, and then all of a sudden go sour, go dark. Never let your guard down because you may not know what someone's true colors are for a really long time. It could take years for someone's truth to be revealed. And you have to understand that every human being on earth is going through a lot of testing. And sometimes when hardship and circumstances come in that are difficult or even painful or brutal, a lot of people will go dark at that point. They may not pass those tests to stay in alignment with the light. And that could end up being an abusive situation. Number 3, you need to stop regularly and ask how the relationship is benefiting you. Is it balanced? Is it growing? Are you at peace with it? Are you happy? Number 4, if you require change, but you're afraid to ask for it, if you are uncomfortable to communicate that you need more balance, more growth, you're unhappy, that's a major red flag. And you want to make sure that it's not a problem you have with your throat chakra. If you are afraid to speak up all the time, this may not necessarily be a sign of abuse. It may just be that you're being challenged. But if you are pretty good at speaking up for yourself most of the time, and you're feeling like you have to walk on eggshells in this relationship, then it's a sign you especially then need to speak out and find out what is going on. Set those boundaries. Number 5, always keep a separate bank account, a plan B. Never give anyone your passwords unless it's absolutely necessary. Know how to change your password quickly. And yes, this includes a spouse. This includes your lover. You should never make yourself completely vulnerable to someone else, financially or otherwise. We find out sometimes that people have been cheating for 20 years and it was never even suspected. These things do happen, and there's no harm in you protecting yourself and keeping healthy boundaries. No one should be testing that, including you. And number 6, study your programming from your past. And understand that that's exactly where abusers are actually going to attack you. So if you've been programmed by society, by your parents, by religion, especially as women, check and see, do you struggle to use your voice? Do you feel like a real witch, or do you have a lot of guilt when you do have to assert yourself? Do you not like yourself when you feel angry? Hey, if you've been programmed to be submissive, that is all the more reason to speak your mind and keep healthy boundaries with people until you have deprogrammed yourself and reprogrammed yourself to be strong, independent, and healthy. Okay, everybody, I hope this helps. We will see you at church next week. And if you want to check out an additional class that can help you with speaking out and protecting yourself, we have Love Your Anger, It Loves You, free mini class coming up here at Ask Ivy on YouTube, November 16th. Take care.
Welcome, everybody, to Roots Revival. I am Reverend Danny, a numerologist with Roots Revival and with the Ivy League Psychic Academy. I am happy to be able to share a little bit about how not to accept abuse and how to know when we know that we are deserving of more than what we might be on the receiving end of. So it feels like when connecting with Spirit and preparing for our sermon today, the very first thing that came through is self-forgiveness, and how important self-forgiveness is, and how connected and directly related self-forgiveness is to accepting abuse. Because sometimes we might allow for things to happen, or we might feel that we are deserving of treatment because of something that may have happened to us. There may have been things that we had no control of, and we really didn't have the capacity to stop something or to change the direction of something. And we might be feeling and holding on to some internal guilt about things that we really were not responsible for. We might also, as humans, as spiritual beings having a human experience, we may have made a mistake or may have done something that we maybe should not have done. And we are in that position of having to forgive ourselves. So when we make mistakes, when we receive treatment or we are on the receiving end of treatment, that may have absolutely nothing to do with the mistake that we may have made or the circumstance that we may not have been able to have control of, we then might feel that we are really deserving of unfair treatment that comes through. And we accept treatment that we should not, out of the guise of, well, because I may have allowed for X to happen, or I made this mistake in this way, this is my karma, so I'm going to accept it. And it's just, there's a difference between taking responsibility and accepting accountability for our actions and allowing for treatment that we are undeserving of. There's a huge difference between the two. And our guides and our ancestors can help us to differentiate between the two, but we just can't do that. We can't allow for, that's really kind of self-abuse in a way, so we can't do that. God and our ancestors and our guides and those who walk with us, they don't want that for us. So when we forgive ourselves, so sometimes what I found within myself and with others who I've had conversations and discussions about self-forgiveness is the fact that, or forgiveness in general, it's sometimes easier for us to forgive others than it is to forgive ourselves. And, we might find it much more, find much more ease in forgiving others, but when it comes to forgiving ourselves, it's like we have to put ourselves through these, we have these unrealistic expectations of self-forgiveness for ourselves. And once we ask forgiveness for ourselves and stop being so hard on ourselves, we then have the capacity to set boundaries that are necessary and that we deserve. We deserve to have boundaries. We deserve to be able to say no when we want to and when we need to. And with love, be able to separate ourselves and step back from circumstances and treatment that we are undeserving of. Sometimes, and with humans in general, and especially for women, both cisgendered and trans, and who with feminine energy and however it is presented and identified and embraced. For people in general, and especially for women in every capacity, in every gender expression, and every expression, sometimes it is the show of strength sometimes is how much we can handle. Like, how much can we do? How much can we give to others, almost to the point of self-depletion, before we allow ourselves to recognize that we are deserving of respect and fair treatment and just basic human decency. That is sometimes it feels like in our society we've been conditioned to feel like we have had to earn our way into respect, and that's not true, not at all. And sometimes, whether it be directly or indirectly, there's almost kind of like a celebration. There's something celebratory about people, and especially women, in every way of identity, that where there is almost like this, celebration almost of the almost abusive way that women are expected to care for others and do for others and allow for ourselves to be depleted. And it's like once we get to that point of self-depletion, then there's a celebration. It's like, look how much they have done, and that's just not right. We don't deserve that. And those who really care for us in their heart of hearts probably don't want that for us either. And the thing is, though, it's our responsibility to say, it's our responsibility to recognize when we have to put up strong boundaries, and we are the ones that say what is allowed and what is not. In terms of numerology, there are always numbers that, numbers have high polarity and low polarity. A couple of the numbers where if a person has these either two numbers in their chart in any capacity, whether it be life path number, the expression number, or any other placements. There are a few other placements that we're going to have the chance to talk about in future spaces. But the number 2 and number 6 are numbers that we're folks, it's just really important to be cognizant that we're not overgiving and allowing for treatment that we don't deserve. The number 2 is associated with relationships and anything that is relational. And sometimes it's like, if there is a situation or person or circumstance where, Ivy always teaches us how we're supposed to do our own work. And everyone is required to do their own spiritual work, their own shadow work. And for the number 2, there might be that drive or that desire to want to help someone with their work. And we've got to be careful of that, because not only is that taking away someone else's opportunity to grow, we are crossing boundaries that we should not. It's almost like cheating on a test. We can't do that. Also, with the number 6, the number 6 is also a very relational number, but especially with regard to family and community. And sometimes if we inadvertently or consciously take on the responsibility for the choices of others, and again, cross boundaries and try to do the work for someone because we might feel guilty that a person might be going through circumstances that are unfortunately either a result of choices that they've made, or it could be lessons that they are meant to learn because of choices that they've made. If we cross boundaries and try to take care of things for them, not only, again, it's like in spirit, it's like we're cheating on the test. We are giving the answers that we are not supposed to give. Just like in school, if there is the person who is helping the person to copy off of their paper and the person copying off of the paper, guess what? Both people are going to be reprimanded because both are responsible. And so you just want to be careful that we are not giving to the point of where we are taking away someone else's experience, and that experience they will be able to take with them through the rest of their earthly time here, because once a lesson is learned, it is something that is with us forever, for all of time. One last thing about abuse. The thing is, we want to make sure that to remember that something that my mom always said is that God does not smile on us when we allow for others to treat us badly and when we accept unfair treatment. God doesn't love us more when we allow for things to happen that are not right. Like, God loves us infinitely. Why would God ever want for us? Now, the thing is, there are sometimes times and spaces where we are meant to show up and we're meant to be there and help in some capacity. Beyond helping within a certain capacity, if it gets to the point of where we are at our core being harmed, God does not want for us to be harmed in that way. And that is when it is our responsibility to set boundaries, say no, say I love you, but I can't in this way. God will not frown on us if we take care of ourselves. In fact, God, I really feel in my heart and in my soul that God sees it as our responsibility to set those boundaries and say no when we need to, because God loves us with everything in his heart and wants only the best for us. So it has been a joy and a pleasure to be here with you energetically, here with Roots Revival today, and look forward to seeing you soon. God bless and have an amazing rest of your weekend.
Hey everyone, Christina Del Rey, and today we're talking about how to not be abused. And I think it's interesting that the one person that has control of this, for the most part, is you. And we often will be the biggest abusers of ourselves. And the way that we do that in many ways, but a big one is that we don't set proper boundaries. And we end up being too stressed out because of other people. And we are living in a society that kind of values that. We are told that we should be worrying about other people and not ourselves. We're told not to be selfish, and we're told to follow the law or follow the rules and to never question. So when we are in a society that is training, especially women, to be subservient, you have to ask yourself, is this in alignment with my life purpose? Is this how I'm supposed to live? Am I supposed to live stressed out? Am I supposed to have all these health problems that are probably caused by all this stress? Or is there more to life? I think in today's society too, especially for women, not that this doesn't affect men, because of course it does, but women are told that it makes you a better person, or it makes you a better mom to be worried about everybody else all the time. And to a certain extent, we have to worry about our children. That's our job. But if we don't take care of ourselves, that is where dysfunction and poor health comes in, because the more that we are living outside of ourselves and not taking care of the inside, the more we lose our vitality, the life force within our bodies, because we're not in our bodies. We are mentally somewhere else. We have our energy scattered. We abuse ourselves because we think that this makes us a better person or a better mom or whatever role in society you identify with. So today in astrology, Saturn turns direct after being retrograde for a really long time. So it's kind of like a little bit of a reality check. Like, where is your karma catching up with you today? What was significant today? What was a significant realization you had today or yesterday that you need to take more responsibility for? And that's going to be individual to everybody's chart. It's going to be unique for everybody, but probably between yesterday and today you had a realization of some kind, and that is Saturn direct. And Saturn is the planet of karma, so he's saying, where do you need to step up? Where are you not taking enough responsibility? And the good thing about Saturn is when you do take responsibility, you get the rewards. You might not get them right away, but you get them down the road, because anything worth having is something that you have to work at. Anything that comes easy, it's just not the same as if you worked really hard for it. So that's what you're asking yourself. So also ask yourself, where are you abusing yourself, or where are you allowing other people to abuse you? So I think that we need to talk about the mind for a moment. In our society, we identify with the mind, right? You are worthy if you are smart and have a brilliant mind. You are not worthy if you don't if you don't have all the smarts or all the abilities to think quickly, right? We always tell kids, we praise kids for thinking fast, but we don't ever praise, we don't praise as much thinking deeply. And thinking deeply is not thinking quick. Thinking deeply is, contemplating. But the more you are in your mind and the less you are in your soul, the more unhealthy you're going to be. So you're going to bring up all these unhealthy, because what happens is, so let's say that my mind, my energy is scattered. I'm thinking about my children, and then I'm thinking about work, and then I'm thinking about my parents, and I'm thinking about, my cousins. And so now I have like 100 things on my plate, and none of that time is spent within my body, meditating, being within nature. None of that time is there. So now the vital force, my energy, is so scattered, it's not in my body. So my body can't do what it needs to do. The cells can't reproduce as they need to reproduce. And the more disconnected you are from the body, the more illness you will have. And that's not to say that you can't worry about your children, or you can't worry about the house, or you can't worry about this. But worrying never did anybody any good. You have to either do something about it, or you have to come back to the present moment. And I've talked about this plenty of times in my other, shows and other services. but we should be moving in and out of the present moment. The present moment is where your power is. So worrying is not going to help. Coming up with a plan, that could help. But worrying about something is not going to help. It's only going to deplete you. So move into the future in the mind to plan things, but then move back to the present moment to restore vitality, to restore your light, to restore your health, which should really be a priority for you. If somebody's health is more of a priority for you than your own health, that is a problem. And society will not tell you that. Society will say that, well, you know, look at her, she sacrifices for whomever. And that's great until you end up being sick, depleted, not being able to enjoy life. So it really is a must that we must take care of ourselves first. How do you do that? Well, you make time for meditation. And, you know, you can listen to a guided meditation. You can go out in nature and walk. You can do whatever brings you into the present moment. Some people like to run. That brings them into the present moment. Some people, whatever activity takes you into the present moment, that is where you need to be. If you continue to identify outside of the body, you're going to be depleted of the vital force that is needed to replenish you. And honestly, you won't be any good for anybody either. You're just going to drag people down with your own energy. Living too far in the future or living in the past will cost you your life, because you will miss the present moment, and life is lived in the present moment. You'll never experience the joy and peace of the moment right now. So what you do need to ask yourself is, go throughout your day and say, where is my peace throughout my day? And if you don't have peace somewhere in your day, like if you don't have a peaceful moment all day long, then you are living so far out of alignment with your soul purpose that you're going to be ill. And when you're young, it's fine. You can really, most of the time, you can maintain your health. But as you get older, it wears on you more, and you have to self-care. There's also guilt, too. We need to talk about the guilt factor, especially with women. If I take care of myself, well, I'm not being a good mom, I'm not being a good person. Society dictates that to you, but we can't let society dictate that to us, because women are only going to take back their power when they realize that they have to take care of themselves. And we have to hold each other up too, because women tend to drag each other down. We tend to criticize each other for, she's not being a good enough mom, or she's not being good enough here. And that is our downfall as women, is that we don't lift each other up enough. And if we did lift each other up enough, society would be completely different. Women would have much more power. And we really need to step into that, divine power, the divine feminine, so that we can balance out the toxic masculinity that is happening in our society at this moment. And that's not to say that all males are toxic. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there is an overarching theme in our society that really speaks to that we should, do things a certain way, the way they've always been done, and we should ignore our feminine energy. That the feminine side is not as important, but it's like the yin and the yang. They both need to support each other. I can think back to when I had little kids. My kids are older now, but I can think back to making time for myself every day. When my spouse got home, I would go to Starbucks for an hour. I just took that hour. It was to myself. And, even if it was just sitting there sipping some coffee, that was my time. Because when you have little kids, there really is no time for yourself in the home. They're always wanting you. Or I ended up getting a hot tub, and I would sit in the hot tub and I would say, nobody disturb me, for a half hour. And it does seem selfish. You're like, oh, I can't be selfish like that. But you have to make time. You have to be selfish. There is no way around it, or you won't be well, and you can't be there for people the way that you need to be for them. So be selfish and be okay with being selfish, and don't care what anybody else thinks about that. Knowing your astrology too, knowing your astrology chart, aligning with your life purpose makes a big difference too. Knowing how, at least knowing your sun, moon, and rising. Those are the three things that you probably need to know, so that you know that how you react to things, you know that how you handle things, you know what's going to work for you as far as stress, and how you can alleviate stress, because it's different for all the signs. And, you know, of course, your astrology chart is unique to you. And you can look at your astrology chart a million times in life and always learn something new. So it's not something that you ever know completely. I still look at my astrology chart after all these years, and I still have new realizations. Also, how do you do this? You make time for the present moment in meditation. Don't give your power away. Through the day, as you're going through your day at work, a lot of times I will bring myself back into the body. If you find in it, I'm very sensitive, but I always know when my mind is way out here and I have to bring it back into the body and be grounded. So try to do that throughout the day. Say, okay, I'm too far out. I'm too far gone with my mind. I need to bring my attention back into the body. And I try to bring it back into the heart and the chest area, but you can bring it back into the arm. You can bring your attention into your breath. You can bring it into your legs. All these are ways to ground yourself, ground your energy, and bring you back, and bring back the vital life force as well. And you can even picture, like, you know, sometimes I think of like God or light or source as above. So you can picture the white light coming down and replenishing you and grounding you. Another way is to ask your spirit guides for help, and then look for the signs that they are helping you. So, you know, sometimes they bring you numbers that are significant to you. Sometimes they will bring you a message through like a phrase that you hear on TV, or a song that you hear, or a memory. The other day, I remember I saw a couple dogs that looked like my dog from childhood. And I always felt like my dog from childhood. We found her. It was almost like she dropped out of the sky. We don't know where she came from, but nobody knew who she was, or, you know, nobody claimed her. So we kept her, and I always felt like she was a guardian angel. And I almost, you know, once in a great while, I get a message, but hardly ever. And the other day, I saw a dog that looked like her. And I was just thinking in my mind, like, oh, wow, you know, that dog really looks like my childhood dog. And then a couple hours later, I picked up my phone. I never said a word to anybody. And a picture of her came up from a memory. And that was pretty powerful. So I know she was around. So they will bring you messages like that. But you have to know what to look for. You have to know what to trust. You have to know to trust their help. Putting up boundaries. It's really a standing joke with my friends that I live in a bubble, and I always say, you know, you can't penetrate the bubble. So I really live with a bubble of light energy around me, and I'm very selective of who I let in and who I give my energy to. And this is always going to be something that's changing, because not everyone deserves your energy, and not everybody is entitled to it. You know, they might think they're entitled to it, but they're not. If the more your energy is scattered, the worse it's going to be for your life, for your health and your mental health, your physical health and your mental health. So if somebody is in your life and they're draining you, they're not giving back to you, that's time to cut that off, you know. And it could be somebody that you love, and it could be somebody that you really care about, but your energy is energy that you have to protect it. And you can't let anybody abuse it too. That is your responsibility. We have to really take responsibility for our own energy, because people will deplete it. And I don't think that people really mean to do that. I mean, some people do, let's face it. But there are people who don't realize that they are doing it. And we have to be accountable for our own energy. People make choices all the time that have nothing to do with us. And, you know, we need to give them the space for that. They need to make their own choices. They need to have their own realizations. They are on their own soul journey. And if that is no longer aligning with you, then, you know, there has to be a boundary there so that you can get your life force back. And it's, you know, it doesn't have to be anything personal. You can still have love for the person, but you just can't let them drain you anymore. So, yeah, no one can do this for you. You can only do it for yourself. And it's difficult to do. But it's either you be selfish with your energy or you be abused. And it's really comes to your choice. It's really your choice. And it really comes from people being unconscious, you know, walking around and being so identified with ego that they don't realize that they're just worried about maintaining their ego. And I try to remember, we talk about this all the time. Those of you that follow us, we talk about, are you coming from fear or are you coming from love? And when most of your actions are coming from fear, that's when you know you're not in alignment anymore. There's always going to be some kind of fear, but you have to be able to sit with that fear and look at it and see how it makes you feel. But if the majority of your life is operating from fear, you are going to be unhealthy mentally and you're going to be unhealthy physically. And that's going to wear on you. And the only one that can change that is you, because your power is in the right now. So I guess I'm going to leave you with this. Do not allow yourself to be abused in any way, even if the person or people in your life, you know, family members, whomever, are not meaning to abuse you. Still take back your energy, take back your vitality, bring back the light and vitality and time to replenish and create space for the present moment or the right now so that you can be healthy and happy in your life. All right, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.